big things we've been working on, obviously, is realizing that when you deploy acoustic telemetry equipment, you get a whole lot of data, and sometimes there can be challenges in kind of working through that data, managing that data, and turning it into what you're ready to then take to an analysis tool. And we've really been trying to build some software tools to help manage all of that data and hopefully get it to a point where you're able to more quickly get to analysis and get to insights. So very excited to talk about these options in the Fathom software suite. So the first one I want to mention is Fathom Connect. So this is a desktop-based software that is at the moment primarily used for connecting to the receivers in our 180 and 307 kilohertz line. So those of you who are familiar with Vemco and have been using View for a while, this is kind of the successor to View, as it were. So that type of configuration of your receivers, offloading data from the deployed receiver, doing your tag and sensor management, and all available in kind of one more modern desktop solution here. Mentioned the real time, so this is Fathom Live. So Fathom Live is again a web-based, a cloud-based dashboard for providing access to real-time data. I'm just going to flip back a couple of slides. What you see here sitting in the water is one of our Fathom Live hubs. So this is the hardware component. So that's a buoy with a cell and Wi-Fi antenna sitting on the top here. And what we can't see below the water line is a receiver hanging below this system. So when an animal is detected on that receiver, that animal then shows up on your dashboard here, and you can get information about animal detections, animal movements. If you've deployed an aqua measure near one of these systems, those environmental sensors we were looking at a few slides ago, you're able to see that environmental information in real time. If you have particular animals you're trying to keep track of, or you really want to know if your hub's detected that animal, we have the ability to set up notifications. So notifications can either be done within our app, or we can push them out to you via email or via SMS to let you know that a particular animal has been detected, on which of the hubs or receivers it's been detected, and then you're able to kind of come in here to the dashboard to get a better dig more into that information. You can also set those types of notifications for changes in environmental sensors. So if you have those aqua measures in the water and dissolved oxygen gets above or below a certain range, or salinity gets above or below a certain range, the system can notify you of that. You're also able to download all of your detection log from your receiver, your Fathom Live receiver, directly here from the dashboard. So no more needing to actually go out to the receiver, physically handle it, connect to it to offload. You can sit in the comfort of your office, connect to this dashboard, and in comes all of the detection data from that receiver.
I guess just some interesting use cases that people are using it for is some public safety. So it's being used right now on a lot of coasts for shark monitoring around beaches. So lifeguards are able to actually have this app, get those notifications. I think we've seen some other people started to use it for invasive species, or even the timing of migration, sort of knowing when to close something down or open up channels, or kind of be more aware of that stuff. So just sort of to get your brains thinking about how you might be able to use a live system.
For sure. Yeah, we've seen all those. They're really exciting use cases. Fathom Position. So for those of you who may be familiar with VPS or Vemco positioning system, so this is the providing kind of real fine scale positioning. Instead of a presence absence detection, it's being able to look at a series of detections and being able to actually plot the path or direction that an animal may have taken in and around your array. That's traditionally been a service that we would provide, collecting the data, doing the analysis for you, and providing this type of positioning output. We now have a DIY version, as it were. Again, it's a cloud-based solution. It allows you to do your own fine scale positioning. We have a consultant that kind of starts with the training and gets you started on moving towards this, and then you're able to go and do your own studies. This is really a great option for someone who wants to do a whole lot of smaller studies doing positioning. Our service team usually runs about 6 to 8 weeks of a backlog in terms of how long it would take from the time that you could submit to us your study, and then we're able to get you positioning results back. So if you want to kind of quickly cycle through some positioning studies to understand or do some testing, Fathom Position provides a great opportunity to be able to do that on your own time, at your own pace, rather than getting in that queue with our traditional VPS service. Obviously, there's a bit of training that's involved in getting started with this, but again, we've seen lots of customers who have been using VPS who really love the output, really love the positioning system, to then kind of be able to dig in and get hands-on with the data has really been exciting for some of our customers. Fathom Mobile. So briefly touch on it here, and we'll be looking at the mobile app as part of the demo here in a few minutes. So we do now have a mobile app that you're able to use to connect to a lot of your receivers. You can deploy your receivers, you can retrieve them, you can offload your receivers using your mobile device, and all of that data gets backed up to our cloud system. So really excited to have introduced a mobile app here to provide some opportunity for doing things in the field that don't involve having to bring your laptop out on a boat with you. And Fathom Central is really the hub, the center of all of these pieces coming together. So that's where the data you offload with your mobile device will end up. That's where you have the ability to work with some of your data, to manage it, to do some initial analysis, and then be able to export your data into an analysis tool. So I'm going to go ahead here and give you a quick demo of Fathom Central itself. Before I get started on the demo, I guess, any questions on the slides? Any moment there, if anybody wants to post anything in the chat on questions from the slides.
And feel free to come up if you want to just come on your mic too.
Yep.
That's cool.
Yeah, hey guys, this is Bill Post. I don't want to derail your presentation, but I just had a couple of questions about the 370 or 307 or 370. Is it compatible at all with any of the 69 kilohertz?
No. So the 69 kilohertz receivers would not be able to detect the 307 tags.
Okay, so you mentioned that you have to have, I guess, existing HDI receivers. So does Vimco have a receiver? Is it just HDI receiver that you'd have to get?
No, we do have a 307 kilohertz Vimco Innovasea receiver. So it's called our HR3, and it is not one of the kind of legacy HDI receivers.
It looks like a big DR2W.
Okay. All right. So in order to use those new tags, you'd have to get a new receiver to be able to do that. But the benefit of that is it works better in high flow situations. Is that what I was understanding?
Yeah. So it's really great at working in high noise environments. If you have a high residency environment, it's better for those. And the much smaller tag allows for tagging of obviously much smaller animals that usually are kind of in those high flow or high residency situations.
Right. So you could do turbid mortality studies and stuff like that, right?
Right.
Okay. And one more question about the acoustic tags. What's the price point on that? I mean, I know it's going to vary based on what you're trying to do and how long you're trying to do, but just general, the V16s are generally around $330 or something like that. What American dollars? What's the price point for the acoustic tags? The ones that log for up to 10 years.
Yeah, the acoustic data storage tags come in a V13 and a V16 size. So the price is similar-ish to those. It's a little bit more as a result of the memory that needs to go on board to do that data storage. But I can get you a price after this one. I don't know it off the top of my head.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's fine. I wanted ballpark. I appreciate it. Thanks. Continue on.
And Dustin, we see your question there. Fathom Connect will eventually, yes, be for the 69 kilohertz. 180 actually is already in there at the moment. The Bachelor 69 HR2 receivers. Not necessarily high residency, but we're working on a digital, so maybe you'll talk.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'd be interested in knowing what HR2 receiver feature functionality you're kind of looking to be seeing in the 69 kilohertz line there. We do have some new receivers that we're working on right now. There's the one that's kind of connected with our live system is variant, maybe not the right word, kind of a descendant of the HR2 that does function at that 69 kilohertz range. So we can certainly, maybe we can take a discussion. I can reach out Nate after this and have a discussion with that receiver with you as well.
Yeah, it sounds good, Aaron. I was really interested in the kind of the new digital technology, which I thought was the HR line, but maybe I'm mistaken there. But the digital technology for saltwater applications, you make what is an HR line for at 180 kilohertz for freshwater systems? Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, you could certainly use 180 in saltwater applications. I think you're not going to get the range in saltwater that you get with 69. I'm certainly not the expert to be speaking on acoustic ranges, so please take that with a huge grain of salt as to the precision of that difference. But certainly looking at how that HR2 provides benefit at 180 is something we're looking at adding to our 69 kilohertz line. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. I think we were probably thinking of collisions and those sorts of limitations. So yeah, that's definitely where our development teams are thinking.
For sure.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you so much. I'd be really interested in that technology. So appreciate it.
Okay, certainly. All right, so let's have a spin here through Fathom Central. So this is the kind of main landing dashboard you'd end up here on Fathom Central. And we can see a whole bunch of things here, but we'll walk through all of these different modules. We really kind of approach this that there are four, I guess, big types of information or data that you're trying to manage. The information about your actual acoustic telemetry devices, the information about the animals that you're studying, where have you deployed that the infrastructure? Where are your receivers? When were they there? And then these files are all of the detection logs that you then take off of your receivers. So I'm going to start by just looking at devices. So when you come into this devices tab, for those of you who may have used the system manager in the previous version of Fathom Central, I think the most exciting feature we've introduced here is by default, all of the devices that you've ever purchased from Innovasea or Vemco are going to show here in this list. So you come in here, you don't need to kind of input all of those devices. They're all just going to show up. You can filter by just looking at your receivers, or you can just look at your tags, or you can look at all of them. You can keep track of rebattery events. So if you rebatteried a receiver, you can put the date and time that you've done that here. You can add some notes, and then you add that rebattery event, and that event is going to show up over here in this side panel where you can look at the history of the things that you have done with that receiver. You can see the details on it to give you the self-transmitter ID, as well as the, sorry, I'm just trying to minimize. Okay, there we go, that's better. So you can see self-transmitter IDs, you can see stock codes, what sales order, all kind of great device information here. If you've got a really old device that you're not using anymore, you've got a tag that's showing up here that's really quite old, you can also retire it. So if you retire that device, it's going to go away from the list, so it's not showing in your kind of active list of devices here. You can always choose to show your retired devices if you want to see them. And this one tells me this is a retired device, and if I've done that by accident, I can always unretire that device. If you've borrowed something from another researcher, whether it's a tag or a receiver, you always have the ability to add more devices to this list if they haven't shown up. You can provide a serial number, and then pick what model of receiver that is, and you can tell us what the self-transmit ID of that receiver is, or same with the tag, you can tell us the transmit ID and indicate whether it's a sensor tag or not.
You can search the table too, right?
Yep.
You can easily.
You sure can. All of these tables, you can start to kind of filter or search the table here. So if I'm interested in just finding my V9 tags, I can type V9 there, and I'm going to narrow my list down to just all of my V9 tags. You can also quickly, we'll get to deployments here in a moment to talk through those, but when you have deployed or retrieved devices, you'll see that information here. So if you record that, this lets me know that this particular receiver, this VR2AR serial 546155, was deployed in June of 2017 at this lat long at this station, and then it was retrieved I'm sorry, that was the retrieval. The deployment was in March, the retrieval was in June, and you can see all of that information captured right here, kind of in an at-a-glance table. Next, we have animals. So this is where you can actually record the information about a particular animal that you've tagged or you're intending to tag. So by adding a new animal, you can come in here to tag it. If you want to choose a particular tag, if you have tagged the animal, that list is here. Again, I can start typing here to filter this down. If I want to limit it by model, I can type V9. If I know the tag ID of the animal that I did tag, I can start to type it here as well to pick my tag. When did I tag that animal? I can either type that in or I can use the date picker here to choose when I tagged that animal. How it was tagged. There's lots of other options here depending on how much information you want to capture related to that tagging event for an animal. I'm just going to finish creating one here. So again, as I go through, measurements, I can record measurements of the animal. If I want to record a different time that was done, I can do that here, or by default, it's going to use this tag attachment time. Again, lots of other information related to measurements of the animal that I can capture. I can give it a nickname, capture all of my important, hope I don't spell a species name wrong in front of, again, lots of information I can capture here. And once I've entered all of this information, I can add that animal. But if I'm tagging a number of animals in sequence here, if I click add another, it's going to save my form, and then it's going to bring it back with the attachment time, the same as my last one, as well as the species, scientific name, and animal origin. So we're trying to reduce the number of times you have to enter all of that information if you had a number of different tagging events take place for a number of different animals. We also have two other types of events that you can record if it's something you normally keep track of, when and where and how that animal was captured, if that's something you want to keep track of. And then also if it's an animal that's been held for any particular time or moved from a capture location to where it's actually then released, you can then capture information about the release of that particular animal. So here I can see this information about my animal. Here's the kind of things I've entered. Shows me the tags that I had attached. Shows me any of the events that have taken place. So if I've tagged this animal, now I can add another event, such as another capture or release. Also recover tags. So if this animal has been recaptured, or if I've been able to recover the tag because it was caught by a fishery and someone's managed to get that tag back to me, I can now record the information that tag was recovered from that animal. By default, it's going to show me the tag that's attached to this. If I've added multiple tags to that animal, it will give me the list of all of the tags that have been attached. When did I recover that tag? So I did that today. And where was it recovered? And I can add that as an event, and that will show up here as well. I can also add multiple measurement sets. So again, if it's an animal that's been held in captivity and you want to do multiple sets of measurements over time, you can always add a new measurement and just record the date and time that measurement was taking place. Deployments is for keeping track of where those receivers have been deployed around the world. So I'm just going to zoom in on, pick one here. So here you can see all of those deployments I've made. We have the devices that are attached, the position that they're in, the station name. So if I go to add a new deployment, I need to give it a start time. If it's a current deployment, not providing an end time, we'll kind of continually push it out on the timeline when we look at the visualization here. If stations is a concept that you use for keeping track of deployment information, you can add a new station name here. You can choose an existing station that you want to assign that deployment to, or you can just leave it with no station assignment at all. Provide a lat long for where that deployment took place, and then what devices are deployed in that particular location. So again, this provides a list of all of your devices. If it's So you can deploy tags or receivers. So if you're keeping track of sync tags or reference tags, range tags, that can all be done in here. Or if it's a receiver you want to deploy, you can filter that down and choose a receiver as well.
And I think you're going to talk about this later, but if you're using the mobile app, like it will actually save the latitude, longitude for you. So this will actually be populated and sent to Fathom Central, like as that's going. So
that is a great segue.
Oh, there you go.
And we're going to try something we haven't tried a whole lot here yet. So what I'm going to try and do is I do have a mobile device here with our mobile app running, and I'm hoping to share the screen on the phone. All right, so far so good. So if I go into Fathom Mobile, so as Courtney mentioned, one thing I can do is go into my deployments. I don't currently have any active.
Checking the weather.
Yeah, just want to make sure it's okay to deploy device. So I am now going to mark a deployment. So if I click the plus button, I get an add deployment. I can choose my device. So again, I can choose between receivers and tags. So I can go in to find the receiver. That's the receiver I want to use. What height in the water is deployed. The water depth I can define here. If I want to assign it to a station, just like we looked at on the web, I can assign it to a station. And instead of entering a lat long manually, like Courtney mentioned, I can tap this plus button and I use the GPS in my device to record the waypoint for that deployment. So once I do that, I can tap the save button, and now I have an active deployment. And if I open that deployment, I can see where it is, I can see the devices that are attached there, and I can see when it started, how long ago it's been there, and what station it's deployed at. You can also use this to connect to your receivers, as mentioned. So we have a receiver here, and if I tap that scan button, receiver shows up here. I can, there it is. So I'm connected to this receiver right now. I can see that I'm connected. It's currently on. It's in that recording mode, 75% battery. I can see the number of detections that are currently on the receiver. I can tap this more info and get all of this kind of detailed information from the receiver. And I can also then, using this button up here in the top, I can choose to do an offload of that receiver. So ask me if I want to offload all or just the new data. So I'm going to choose to offload all of it. Bit of information here on that offload. If I was not connected to Wi-Fi, or if I was not within range of a cell, it would download onto the device and just store that on the device. But here, because I'm connected to the network, it's going to download that, and then it's going to automatically upload for me. So you can see here, success, the offload from receiver 48081 is complete, and the data from receiver 481081 has been uploaded. So if I can figure out how to switch back to me being able to present.
Did you want to show the animals in the
Yeah.
Well,
Too.
sort of the same idea being that you can capture that animal metadata in the field as well, and then have it to be uploaded.
For sure. Yeah. So here we can see the two animals that I did have, and I can choose to create a new animal record. So again, here's all of that that information, the same information that we had on the form on web. But again, when I'm taking GPS measurements, I can leverage the GPS location of my device to capture that lat long information. You can also keep track of what I've downloaded and transferred. So as that kind of record to keep which receivers have I done, if you've got a number of them that you're trying to keep track of, what have I offloaded, what haven't I offloaded, what's uploaded successfully, what hasn't uploaded, that will all appear in this transfer section. And that is also a great way to move to looking at files. So here we go into the files. This is where you can upload all of your existing VRL files. If you have done a bunch of offloads that you want to then be able to use some of the tools here at Fathom Central to keep track of. When you offload using Fathom Mobile, it automatically uploads here. So if I start to filter my list, 481.081. There we are. There's my there's the file that I just offloaded from that receiver, already synced to my account here. Cool. So here's that file already uploaded. Once I'm here, I can do a number of things with these files. So if I have a VDAT, you may notice that the file that just came off my receiver is in a different file format. It's not a VRL, it's a VDAT. This is the kind of new file format we're starting to move forward with. Realizing that we need to support some cross-compatibility, I can also export this for view. So if I want to bring it into an existing view database that I have and I'm working with, I can export those VDATs as compatible VRLs, or I can also export any of my detection logs as CSV files if I want to be able to download them from here. So that's kind of the three big pieces of metadata, data you're trying to manage. When it comes to then actually grouping it and analyzing it, what we've introduced as a concept here is this concept of studies. So we can see right now I'm not currently in a study, and that's showing me all of my things that are in here. If I want to filter that list down to the information that's relevant to the particular study I'm working on, I can create a study and then I can come in here and actually work within that study. So if I look at this list of deployments, here are the deployments that are specific to this study and this study only. So I'm going to zoom in a bit here. So here you can see this is a river system. Each one of these deployment markers represents a station associated over here. If I click one on the table, it highlights it over here in the map view, so I know which one I'm talking about and working with. And this is that timeline concept that I had mentioned. So here you can see that these were all deployed at the same time. That's what the intention of this kind of list is to be able to look at a timeline and understand when overlaps or gaps in the station coverage exist. So here we can see that they all kind of end at the same time there, so we probably haven't made any errors with our date entry. Once you've grouped your information here in a study, you're then able to leverage these two first kind of data analysis tools that we've developed. So the first one is a detection map. So what this does is it generates a map showing all of your station locations that you've identified, your deployments, and it will then show all of the detections that those stations have had in terms of on a map with a bubble that grows and shrinks in size to show you how many detections have taken place there. A great tool for doing some initial first glance at your data to ensure that you've got some detections, they're in different places in the system, that your receivers have been detecting your tags, and do a little bit of an understanding of has my system been working the way I wanted it to. You can also animate this. So here we can watch these kind of bubbles shrink and grow as they have more and less detections taking place over a period of time. You can zoom. So if I'm only kind of interested in looking at this September to October range, I can zoom in on that particular time frame and again animate there. If I'm not interested in looking at all of the tags that have been detected here, because maybe this is a system where there's lots of other researchers who have tags moving through, I can go in and I can very much limit what tags I want to see move through in my animation. So if we do that, we can kind of watch, we can watch one kind of particular animal. Here we can see this animal just kind of appeared there and then was not captured in the rest of the array. The other tool here is receiver diagnostics. So as soon as you offload a file, this is available as a tool to be able to look at those receiver files. So I can pick a receiver file, and I can very quickly chart the information about tilt, noise, temperature. I can look at detections and pings against that. And as I move through, this might be better one. Again, if you use the AR, you'll get more of these, the depth, temperature values. Let you chart these, and again, you can zoom on this. The line will follow you along to give you exactly when you're looking at, and then over on the right-hand side of the graph there, you can see it's giving you very specific information about what the measurement was at that particular time.
Things like that are great if you're looking at like possible collision situations, and like if you put in the pings and detections there, you can kind of compare that if you're in a high noise environment. Was it really noisy? Is that why you're not hearing any tags? Or, was it quiet if your fish just aren't there? So it's a really great being able to see that all in one spot.
Yeah, so I guess we would see that they line up pretty good.
Yeah.
Cool. So that's really that's what we've introduced now. This is what's now available. This is on live on production on fathomcentral.com. I guess to give you a bit of an idea of where we're working on next, what do we kind of have as the evolution coming for this? We're really working on the ability to export your study data. So being able to export all of that metadata about your deployments and about the animals you've tagged and the detections you've had, and to package that up for you to export it to telemetry networks. So we are working with OTN to be able to push your data directly to OTN, and we're in lots of conversations with other telemetry networks about how we can connect this data to their networks so that you as researchers don't have to spend time formatting and building those spreadsheets to send to the telemetry networks. We can take care of a lot of that data management here, ensure that the formatting is correct for the network, and get it over to them. We're also working on the sharing of this information within your own organization. So if you work in a lab with a number of other researchers, and you share receivers and you share deployments and you share those log files, instead of everybody having to do all of their own data entry, how can you have one person can populate this information, and you can share that amongst a group of researchers all making use of that information. So those are kind of the next things that we're working on. We're hoping to be able to release them relatively soon, and we're constantly developing against this platform. So we're really excited to have it out there. We feel like this really presents a polished tool to be able to help manage a lot of that acoustic telemetry metadata. And we're really excited to have you all start using it and providing some feedback to us on how we can help continue to build these tools to make acoustic telemetry data easier to manage and something that you can then more easily get to analysis and insights.